I am not giving you a list of food that applies to everyone. I am not giving you a list of approved foods and a list of cheat foods. And I am not trying to kill your joy of eating. Okay. What I'm trying to do is give you a method that lets you be in the driver's seat and make the best decisions for your life. Hello, and welcome to the Core Podcast. We're your hosts, Aline Keller
and Shannon Polson.
I'm a precision nutrition certified coach.
And I'm a NASM certified personal trainer for over 13 years. We support women 30 years old and over to pursue health through realistic nutrition and fitness strategies. Our main passion is to help you find that smile when you look in the mirror, find freedom when you eat, and joy when moving your body.
Make sure to subscribe for your weekly dose of doable health tips, practical advice, and so much more. It's the health education you wish you'd had.
Today, Aline is going to chat about a stoplight. And I think that is amazing because I imagine what most people are thinking, traffic stoplight. How can a stoplight be incorporated into our daily living when it comes to food?
And it's interesting because I love the analogy of the stoplight because it really is about putting you in the driver's seat. See what I did there? So it's about putting you. I wish you guys could see our faces when we're doing this podcast. Anyway, it's really about putting you in the driver's seat, of getting you to make the decisions for yourself. So here's like a number one secret that I want you to understand is that good nutrition has nothing to do with following rules. It's not about having a list of to-dos and a list of crimes. It's not about fitting a specific mold that you've been told is the best. The healthiest people in the world, they are not following someone else's rules. They've developed a personal food system or a personal food list that's based on their preferences and values and lifestyle. So it's not just about nutrition. It's not just about the nutrition component of foods. It's about how you feel and the things that you prefer. And the beauty of this stoplight approach is that it makes room for donuts and tortillas and pizza and beer, and it doesn't require you to eat the quote unquote healthy foods that are unbearable to you. And in my case, I'm thinking beets. I hate beets. So, it doesn't require you to force yourself to eat something that you hate. And this method works really, really well because it allows you to enjoy your meals, to eat nutritiously, yes, but also to be in control of your food and not lose your marbles when you're around super high calorie foods. It's really not about restriction or deprivation. It's about balance and freedom. So I'll preface this with what I am not telling you. I am not giving you a list of food that applies to everyone. I am not giving you a list of approved foods and a list of cheat foods. And I am not trying to kill your joy of eating. Okay. What I'm trying to do is give you a method that lets you be in the driver's seat and make the best decisions for your life. So you're going to find that the nutrition quality of food is important. We never dismiss that. I'm never going to tell you that, you can live on chips and Coke. Nutrition quality matters when you choose foods, but that's not the only thing that you consider when you're choosing something to eat, because the fact is that we don't eat nutrients, we eat food. So choices take into consideration your likes, your dislikes, your habits, your goals, your values, your physiology, where you are in the moment, why you're eating. So many things come into play. So the gist is that you're going to make 3 lists, essentially: green, yellow, and red light foods. So let's break down each one. Then we're going to give you a few examples, and I'm going to tell you exactly how to do this. So green light foods are foods that you can eat anytime, anywhere. These are foods that you like. These are foods that fits your goals. You can eat them in moderation. They do not disrupt your body in a negative way. And it's not only about nutrient density, okay? This list doesn't only have to have fruits, vegetables, and lean protein, okay? These foods, they align with your values, your culture, your lifestyle, and they make you feel good. So these are the foods that you are always going to have easy access to. You want them in your fridge, in your pantry at eye level. These are the foods that should stay. If you leave food out on your countertops, these are the foods that are going to be there, because it's easy for you to access, because this is the list that makes up the bulk of what you eat. Now, not letting go of the habit of eating mindfully and slowly, green light foods are foods that you just eat, you just enjoy. There's no fuss to green light foods. Then the yellow light foods are the foods that you like, that they moderately fit your goals. These are foods that you have some control over how much you eat, like you don't binge, but you need to put some thought into. And these foods might not always make you feel your best, but sometimes the trade-off is worth it for you. So, for example, they might trigger a little bit of indigestion, or you don't have as much control over the amount you eat, but every once in a while, you're okay with that, because again, you're in the driver's seat. So sometimes you're going to make the decision to say, yeah, sure, this might make me really gassy, but I'm okay with that for today, or something like that. So these are foods that are going to be moderately available to you. So these are not the foods that you can grab when you're like super hungry and not thinking about it. These should be a little harder for you to get to. And I want to make it very clear that these are foods that have two sides to them. Okay. So sometimes in the yellow list, we have a lot of the quote unquote problem foods. And these are the foods that you want to have to work harder for. You don't want to stock these foods, and you only want to eat them on occasion. So maybe it's a food that you only eat when you go to a restaurant, or maybe when you eat it, you only get small bite-sized portions. I'll give an example. One of my yellow list foods is sweet potato fries. I absolutely love sweet potato fries. I don't have it, because if I have sweet potato fries at home, I will literally have them for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So sweet potato fries is something that whenever I go out to eat and the restaurant has them, I eat them, but they're a yellow food because, it's not something that I want to be eating all the time. Sometimes they are nutritious, very nutritious foods that you add to your diet, but not all the time, because it's a more finicky food for you. So maybe it's a certain vegetable that you like cooked just right. For example, I know someone that hates eggplants except for one eggplant lasagna recipe. So, every once in a while, eggplant lasagna is on the menu. So eggplants is a yellow food because it's not something that you easily eat all the time. You need to put a little more effort. So maybe you'll just have it on the weekends, or maybe it's like a steak that you're not crazy about, but if your partner makes it, then you're going to eat it, or something that you eat at a restaurant. So yellow light foods can really be anything. But usually, so with the green lights, usually fruits, veggies, lean meats, stuff like that really fall into that category a lot. And with the yellow, lots of times alcohol, most sweets, a lot of the quote unquote junk food, it ends up here. But hey, it could be eggplant, it could be kale, it could be okra. Okay. Anything can go in the yellow foods list, which takes us to the red light foods. Now, I'm going to start by saying that we've talked about this many times. There are no bad foods. Okay. So red light foods aren't bad foods. These are just foods that you either choose not to eat, or you choose not to eat them most of the time. And there are many reasons to put foods on the red list. One of them is that they just don't line up with the goals that you have. Another could be that you have no self-control around them, that if you start eating this food, you just keep going. So you always overeat it. Another reason, a big one, is you're allergic or intolerant to these foods, or you just plain don't like them. Again, I'm thinking beets, okay, for myself. So ultra processed foods and desserts often fall into this group because most people feel like they can't stop eating this kind of food. And some people would go so far as to call these trigger foods because once you hear that package opening, suddenly you look at the package again and the entire container of Oreos is gone and you only have crumbs left to tell the story, So there are some foods that go into this category because you just can't stop. So keep in mind that the so-called quote unquote healthy foods aren't immune from the red list either. So for example, for my beets example, if beets make you want to lose your dinner, they go on the red list because, there's enough food in the world that you don't have to eat foods that you hate. If apples make you rush to the bathroom, those are going to be red light foods. So in the end, here's how it goes. Red light foods, they're not banned foods, unless of course you have some sort of allergy. Red light foods, they're foods that you can experiment with and you may grow to love some things that you dislike. And for the things that you have no control around, you may find that you'll learn to eat them in moderation, but they're in the red light list so that you can create some personal boundaries around them. So these are foods that you want to make really hard to access, maybe only when you're eating out or on special occasions, or in the case of allergies, you can't access them at all. Now, there are countless lists online. Maybe a doctor or a coach or a health practitioner handed you a list of foods that you can or can't eat, or maybe, and this one makes me cringe, they gave you exactly a plan of what to eat for breakfast, exactly what to eat for lunch, exactly what to eat for dinner. Like maybe you got some of these lists, and most of these lists don't have middle ground. It's either yes or no. And this traditional way, at best, it's very limiting and restrictive. But at worst, it can lead to a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, anxiety, and even eating disorders. So this stoplight strategy, that is not about any of that. The purpose of this exercise is to build your list and your boundaries and get deeper into the awareness of what matters to you, of what you like, of what you dislike, of what promotes your health, the health that you want to do, the health that you want to have, of what makes you actually feel good and what things don't make you feel so good. The purpose is for you to make informed decisions for yourself and not just conform to what somebody else says. So what you're going to do, and before I tell you how to build this, there are a few things that happen when you build this list. First of all, you don't want to do it all at once. And once you build this list, you want it somewhere that's accessible, and I'll touch on that in a little bit. But you are going to find that depending on your moment of life, depending on your goals, depending on what's happening, your lifestyle, your priorities, some foods are going to shift in between these colors, and that's okay. Sometimes it's going to be a food that you learn to enjoy because you think that that's something that you want to include more of, or you want to, there are some people that start out and all of their fruits and veggies are in the yellow or the red list. And, they want to incorporate more of that. They want it to be more in their green list. So this is something you can learn to do. And, but also sometimes trigger foods, you can learn to eat them more moderately. You can learn to have more control over them. So this isn't a rigid list. This is a fluid list. Things can move around, things can change because you can grow and you can change. So we're going to do just a little fire shot just so that you have some ideas of a few of our foods that are in our lists. All right. So now the reason why you would put foods in your green list are because you don't have a dietary restriction to that food. You can eat it in moderation. It's something that you can put in constantly in your diet and feel good about that. It fits your goals and it doesn't disrupt you. Now, let me be clear. This is not our full list. We're just going to give you 2 or 3 examples of things that exist on our green food list. So for me, a few things that are on my green foods is chicken breast, eggs, spinach, lettuce, apples, cauliflower, strawberries, broccoli, So chocolate is in my green list, people. So these are a few. Bread is another one that people are very surprised, but bread is on my green list. So these are some things that are my green list. So Shannon, what are some foods in your green list?
Sure. So my green list is salmon and chicken, eggs, cheese, all of the veggies except for peas, berries, pizza, and craft beer.
There you go. So you see that both these lists have a lot of the nutrient dense foods and the things that, like, quote unquote, you're supposed to eat. But both our lists have different things that are so-called unhealthy, but they're still on our green list because these are things that we can manage and that we want to have on rotation. So the yellow foods, again, the yellow foods are things that you don't have as much control over, or things that don't sit well with you, or that you just don't care for, but every once in a while you might eat. So for me, a few things that are on my yellow foods are ice cream, okra, milk, cookies, tea, red meat, alcohol. So these are some of the things that compose my yellow list. How about you?
Okay.
What are a few of yours?
Mine are French fries, donuts, and ice cream.
Good one. Those are three good examples. And again, this isn't our entire list. Okay. Please do not listen to this episode and think that the foods we mentioned are the only things we eat or don't eat. This is just a few examples of each of our lists. Now, the red foods is always a fun one, but so why are things added in your red list? So in my case, I don't have any food restrictions or allergies. So anything you hear on my list, it's either because I hate it and am thinking beets and blueberries and seafood. Don't eat any of that. I don't like it. Or things that I really have a hard time controlling. And a few examples in my list are donuts. I have in my lifetime, and I could, without a lot of effort, eat 12 donuts in one sitting. This has happened before. So, I have a hard time stopping with the donuts. And another thing that I have a hard time stopping is spinach dip. So, those are some things that I have on my red list. And, it rotates between the yellows and the reds is the sweet potato fries. So these are a few examples. How about you, Shannon? What's in your red list?
Sure. The item in my red list that I have is because I don't like is peas. But then these other items, I don't have any restrictions in my diet either. I am not allergic to anything. But these items, they just won't, I don't love them so much and they're not going to help me with my goals. Would be like the sugary snacks, such as like Little Debbie's, like those
Uh-huh. Like candies.
individual, yeah, that type of stuff. Soda pop, not into pop, white flour noodles, and coffee creamer.
Okay,
Like
there you go.
I love all that stuff, but it's like it's kind of the balance or the bank account for my calories. Like I'd rather have ice cream than white flour noodles.
There you go. And that is the beauty of this stoplight system, is because, it's all about finding the things that work for you, the things that you enjoy. And like Shannon said, it's the balance. Like, is there a trade-off? Do you really want this, or maybe you want something else? So
Mhm.
how do you do this? Well, you can do this on paper. You can do this. You can download my PDF, or you can do this on your phone. That's also a way that lots of people just make notes on the phone. So what you're going to do is you're going to make this list, but don't worry about finishing it or completing it. This is an ongoing process. So leave it somewhere that you can access easily and add or remove things, maybe your kitchen or your phone, because it might be that you encounter a situation where you eat something, and now that you know about this stoplight system, you're going to start thinking about it when you eat things, and you're going to be like, okay, is this a green, a yellow, or a red? And you're going to start to populate this list. Also remember that there are no bad foods and there are no off limits foods. Any food can fit in a healthy diet unless you have an allergy. But again, it goes back to, when you're making this list, what do you want very easily accessible? What do you want kind of accessible? And what to you, either you can't have for a medical reason, or you just feel like it's not worth the trade-off. It's not worth eating that. You'd rather eat something else. And then you're going to make decisions based on what aligns with you, your body, your goals, your mental health, your physical health, your values. This isn't about somebody else's diet or meal plan. This is about you. And what happens when you start intentionally working with these food lists is that you're going to find that your relationship with food, it's going to become less rigid and rule-based, and it's going to be more flexible and more freedom-based, because you can always control what you eat. You can choose to eat from any of the lists, and you just have to remember that you're the one who's going to deal with the results of your choice, for better or for worse. You're the one who's going to live with that, and you just have to figure out what do I want to do, what do I want to eat, from which list, and make informed decisions. And your relationship with food is going to change over time, and things, like I said, they might shift from one color to another, and that's just part of growing and changing. Your tastes, your values, your priorities, all these things change. Allergies and intolerances, they may form, or if you're super lucky, some of them go away. So your health and fitness goals may change. So these lists, they are not a set of rules to keep you stuck. They're not a prison. These lists are a reference point to reach the health that you desire.
You touching base on the rule base and the freedom base is so amazing. And I love that you mentioned this is all about you. So we gave you our lists. That doesn't mean that this should be your green, yellow, and red lists.
And just a little part of our list, because it's a lot bigger than that.
Right. And then also that we have worked really hard at these lists to have like that freedom base eating concept. For me, when I was younger, like in my teens into my 20s, mid 20s, I had so many rules for food.
Oh, yeah.
It sucked the living energy out of me. I
Yes.
don't know. I think it was around 28 when I was just like, OMG, like I am wasting so much freaking time and energy on all of these silly food rules.
And seeing our lists, it's also very clear, because it's interesting that you put salmon in your green list, and all seafood, all fish is in my red list. So that's another example that, we are both, I'm the healthiest I've ever been, in the best shape that I've ever been in my life. And, you're super healthy, and you're healthier than you were 10, 15 years ago. And, we have the same food on opposite ends of our spectrum, and we're still healthy, we're still doing well, we're still eating well. So this just goes to show that a single list, there is no list that fits everybody, no food that fits everybody. You need to do the work of figuring out what's the best for you.
Right. Yes. And I remember what I was going to say. That how you look at food and then some of the rules that you place on yourself is not necessarily your fault. Do you remember talking
Yes.
about that?
Yes.
I mean, just like the celebrations as when we're children, to having everything revolve around food, to being unable to transition from teen to adulthood and learning the different habits around food, and then all the stigma and outside noise. It's like all of this stuff we're confused.
Yes.
We think that we need all these rules, and it's not your fault that you look at food the way that you do, or that you are the way that you are, but all goes with that consistency and starting this list. Like, what a great way to just visualize what you love, what you can kind of balance around, and what you dislike.
And just looking inwards and saying, okay, is this really a problem? Is this something that I have to eliminate, or is this something that I have to make myself eat? Right? It really helps you take a look at this relationship with food and filter things out.
Yes, yes.
All
What
right.
a great strategy. I love this.
We could talk about this for hours, but because you won't have the patience to listen for hours, we have a lot of meetings that we don't record. But next week we start another fitness mini series, and we're talking about training systems. So stay tuned, because this is all good advice that can help you in your training. So stay tuned. We'll be back next week.